Hey there, We Can't Wrestle podcast listeners. If you haven't noticed, we have switched our server to Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many, many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Highly recommended by me and everybody else here at the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. I'm Nate Maxon, your host. Now, before we start the show this week officially, I just wanted to take some time, so a little bit of your time at the beginning of the show, to let you know about the CWF Legends Fan Fest, Championship Wrestling from Florida. If you were a fan or are a fan of the old stuff from Florida, the event is being promoted by a friend of the show, Barry Rose, who also hosts a great podcast, Breaking Kayfabe with Bowden and Barry. Definitely search for that one on your favorite podcast app. And Barry will be promoting this show. It is going to be taking place November 9th, 2019, at the Marriott Residence Inn in Lutz, Florida, off the Suncoast Parkway. And tickets are available to only 150 fans, which I think is great because it's going to give you, the fan, a very personalized experience at the show. I think it's just a great move on Barry's part to limit the tickets so that everybody that pays for tickets can actually have that great experience. The show is going to feature the main event guy. It is going to be there is Barry Windham, also a legendary Four Horsemen manager J.J. Dillon, Rocky Johnson, Dutch Mantell, Kendall Windham, Tony Gurria, and many more. So please do give that. If you're going to be in that area or you can be in that area on November 9th, I highly recommend getting tickets to the CWF Legends Fan Fest. Tickets are available on eventbrite.com. Just search for the CWF Legends Fan Fest 6. And like I said, give the show a chance and just support CWF Legends Fan Fest and go check it out. It's going to be a fantastic experience, I believe. Barry Windham is actually going to be signing autographs, taking photos, and then sitting down for an intimate two-hour dinner Q&A session. So, I mean, you don't get much more personal than that. So, good job, Barry, on the show, and best of luck. And hopefully some of our listeners will be able to attend. That's the CWF Legends Fan Fest, November 9th in Lutz, Florida. Now, that being said, let's get the We Can't Wrestle podcast started for this week. I'll bring Aaron in, and we will get started. All right, and episode 74 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast has officially began. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Hello.
After us figuring out some technical difficulties we had the last time we tried to record the show, we are back in business. I'm going to send some negative feedback to Skype. Or our internet provider, one of the two. Or our internet provider, one of the two. For this week's show, we are going to have a top 10 returns. We're going to talk about our top 10 most iconic moments in pro wrestling. And actually, I put out to our Facebook group for listeners to comment on what they thought were the most iconic moments in wrestling. So I will also read those as people comment on that. I know we record late, so some people are probably like, well, fuck you guys, I'm sleeping. But anyway.
Did people already comment?
Yes, I have a couple here. And I will address those as we go through the top 10s. We'll try a little interactive there with the show. I do want to say real quick, I know you said you haven't watched it yet, but anybody listening to the show, if you have not yet watched the NXT TakeOver Cardiff, I highly recommend it. I would say Walter and Tyler Bate is the match of the year so far in professional wrestling, and it was a better pay-per-view than any pay-per-view offering that I've seen from AEW so far. And I'm not an AEW hater. I'm not trying to hate on them. I'm just saying NXT UK is badass. I really like that promotion. But anyway, so top 10 iconic moments in the history of professional wrestling. I will let you go first, my brother.
Well, hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I don't want to forget. We haven't decided what we're doing next week. Correct?
Correct.
But I figured we'd do another group pay-per-view review.
Okay.
And I would let you select. Okay?
Okay.
And this is a collection of WWE, or WWF, I should say, and WCW and ECW pay-per-views 1 through 5.
1 through 5?
So we're doing this on the fly. Pick a number 1 through 5. 1 through 5.
Middle of the card. Let's go number 3.
All right. Next week, or whenever we record again, the pay-per-view review, and you can text Kyle, who unfortunately can't be with us because he's working mandatory overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Dusty Rhodes, we are going to review ECW Anarchy Rules 1999.
Anarchy Rules 99.
We haven't done that yet, right?
I don't think so. I don't think I've seen that pay-per-view since 99. So,
All right. Well, that's what we're reviewing.
all right, we'll roll with that. ECW Anarchy Rules 99 review on the next show.
Didn't mean to go off kilter or whatever.
That's all right. This isn't the WWE. We don't have scripts.
And iconic moments, like, how do I want to say it? Like, describe to me what you consider an iconic moment.
Something that, for me, any top 10 I do, it's always personal anyway. It's something for me that these are things that when I think of my wrestling fandom, these are moments that pop in my head. These are things that, like, it's the stuff you don't forget. You know what I mean?
All right. That's what I was thinking too. And it's not necessarily something you had to, like, see in the moment, right? So I have one that I didn't see in the moment.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Actually, I have two. I was a baby when one of them happened, and I was not even born when another one happened, so...
No, but it's still something that sticks in your mind, you know? When you think of pro wrestling, this is an iconic moment in pro wrestling.
Okay. So, were you going to start, or was I going to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, I will start with Scott Hall walking down walking through the crowd in WCW. Scott Hall enters WCW.
Coming into the ring during a match between the Mauler and Steve Dahl, I believe, who was Stephen Dunn.
Something like that. But Scott Hall coming down unannounced in his Canadian tuxedo, telling everybody, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here.
Where's the Nacho Man?
Yeah, and, well, he did that when he was up on the stage, like, up on the announcer's booth or whatever, but...
I believe he did that during the initial promo, too, though.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah, you're probably right. But just that was... because there was shit when I was a kid. And I was a kid when that happened, too. You know, but that was, like, the first thing when I was watching wrestling that blurred the line.
Well, and that's what I was just
like,
about
you
to
were like, holy shit, like, that dude's not supposed to be there.
That's what I was
Why
just...
is Razor Ramon on Nitro?
That's what I was just about to say. Modern wrestling fans probably don't... post-internet wrestling fans, like, surprises aren't really a thing anymore. Like, a surprise finish can be, or a surprise storyline can be, but as far as somebody entering a promotion, nowadays, in the days of the internet, you pretty much know...
Yeah, like
5 months.
not to downplay him, and like I said, I'm not gonna hate on like AEW until they get on TV.
Mm.
Once they get on TV, I might hate on them. I don't know, but like Dean Ambrose showing up on their pay-per-view was cool, but you knew it was gonna happen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I know,
you're sitting at home watching fucking Nitro at 8 o'clock in the afternoon, and holy shit, Scott Hall's here.
And
what the fuck is going on?
People in 1996, 96, I was probably, well, at that time I would have been 15, so you would have been, what, like 11? We weren't subscribers to the PW Torch or the Wrestling Observer yet. You know what I mean? So we didn't have inside info. And as a fan at that time, it was like, well, son of a bitch, Razor Ramon is on the WCW.
Yeah, and everybody did their job great on that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like Zbyszko sold it well, and from everything I understand, everything I've read, and I've even heard Eric Bischoff say it, Bischoff wanted Scott to walk down the ramp.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry Zbyszko was like, if he walks down the ramp, then how's it going to be believable that nobody knew he was here?
Right.
So Zbyszko was bought in on it because it was his idea for him to walk through the crowd. Schiavone did a good job because he basically said nothing. And like Colonel Rob Parker told the Mauler to get the fuck out, get the fuck out of the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Like what else, like everything about that, and you can say what you want to say about later on with the NWO or everything, but everything about that segment of the angle was done perfectly.
Yeah, well, everything for the first 6 months of the NWO was done perfectly.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely, definitely.
And people might want to say, oh, well, they didn't cut his mic off or whatever. Well, if you're a production person and this guy shows up, you're gonna sit there and be like, what the fuck is this guy doing? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that's one of the most well done angles or segments, whatever you want to call it, in wrestling ever.
Yeah, definitely.
Showing up in WCW.
Definitely an iconic moment. More on the NWO later.
I got one of them. Well, maybe I don't know if I have another NWO thing or not. I don't. And, well, I mean, if it didn't work, you could just be like, Scott Hall was drunk and thought he was involved.
So the first one on my list is of iconic moments, and again, this is personal preference, personal list. It is the Shawn Michaels, the end of Shawn Michaels' career at WrestleMania 26. The match itself is fantastic, not as fantastic as the WrestleMania 25 match with The Undertaker, but the match is fantastic. But the end of that match was the perfect way, because we're going to ignore the fact that Shawn Michaels took that Saudi money, just like I ignore the fact that Flair wrestled in TNA. The end of that match to me is perfection. The Shawn Michaels was always the guy that had he was the little guy that had the attitude and the mouth bigger than he actually was, if that makes sense.
Was that him fighting Taker?
Yeah. Well, in general, his character was like that, but the way his career ended.
The match.
Yeah, it was him and Taker, WrestleMania 26, and he slaps the piss out of the Undertaker, and then the Undertaker gives him the damnedest tombstone, and that's what took Shawn Michaels out. And the finish to that match, to me, is perfection. It's a finish. It's a perfect finish to Shawn Michaels' career.
Because, you know me, man, I'm like, I'd say after probably Was that before or after they did like that Hell in a Cell match? Or was it the Hell in a Cell match?
No, I'm talking about the end of Shawn's career. The
Well,
career.
I know, but Taker and Triple H fought in the Hell in a Cell,
Oh
right?
yeah, no, that was before that.
Okay.
Yeah, because Taker did 2 years with Michaels, and then after Michaels retired, he did 2 years with Triple H.
Was that the one where Shawn was like, Undertaker came from hell and Shawn came from heaven?
No, that was 25.
Oh my god.
26 is the one. 26 is the one in Phoenix in the toaster, and Shawn. Undertaker has Shawn down, and Shawn like climbs up him, like uses his pants and climbs up him,
I remember that one.
and then slaps the fuck out of him. Because Undertaker's like showing mercy or whatever, and then he slaps the fuck out of him. Undertaker picks him up and does like a jumping tombstone. And
Yeah, I
Shawn
remember
like
that.
bounces off the mat, and then Taker pins him. And it just, to me, with Shawn's career and the way Shawn's character was, it was the perfect end to his career. One last, like, suck it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember that now. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right.
A lot of those a lot of those newer WrestleManias get lost on me, but because you're a bigger, newer fan than I am, you know. But yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, that one sticks out with me. Shawn Michaels' retirement, the finish of that match, a big deal. Big deal. So, next for you is...
I will. You brought up the Undertaker, so I'll bring him up.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the 1990 Survivor Series Undertaker debuting.
An iconic moment if there ever was one. And then Gorilla Monsoon hit him with a tombstone. A what? I think he calls it a tombstone.
He calls that the tombstone.
I think he calls it a tombstone.
I mean, it had been called a tombstone pile driver like before that.
Yeah.
But you take that silly faux pas away from it, like thing that you look back on it, like that was the one that I put on my list that maybe right at the moment it might have not been an iconic moment, you know.
Yeah.
But you get 5, 6 years, 7 years after it, you know, it's like I was alive and I was watching wrestling when this guy debuted.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he's the legend that I can say that I knew. I watched it the minute it began,
Right.
and I've been watching it ever since. Like, I can't tell you the first time Ric Flair ever appeared on television.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't alive. I can't tell you the first time. I can't tell you when Dusty Rhodes and like had his altercation with Pac Song, which when you watch it now, you're like, oh yeah, that shit was cool, you know.
Right. But I didn't see it as it happened.
See it as it happened, but I can tell you that I watched the Undertaker debut,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a character that you had like nothing like you had ever seen before.
Oh yeah, with the no selling and the just the and also if you think about it, the WWF at the time that was a creepy, scary, dark character.
That's character.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like that had ever been seen before. So I would say Undertaker debuting at the Survivor Series is an iconic moment in my opinion.
Good call. So the next one on my list, number 9, is another modern one, or fairly modern one. We go back to 2011 here. It is CM Punk beating John Cena for the title at Money in the Bank. Actually, I think for the 2010s, that's the most iconic moment in wrestling for this decade. That the how often is a crowd so loud and so intense that it shakes the cameras? You know what I mean? I mean, that was, and then him blowing Vince the kiss and taking off with the title. Like, at that time...
Vince McMahon allowing something that wasn't, like, his complete idea to involve him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Vince knew that even though this isn't my idea, I have to be involved in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. And on top of that, like, and the thing that sucks about that angle is you fast forward 3 months and how they fucking botched the whole thing. But that angle was so good that at the time, those of us who were, you know, and again, still a wrestling fan, but not wrestling fans like we used to be. Those of us that are like that at that time, to be honest with you, I thought, well, shit, this could be the beginning of something great. You know, this could be the beginning of another boom period. This could be beginning of a new creative. I got my hopes up, but it was that good that in this decade of wrestling, it really sticks out to me, and I think that's that's why it's an iconic moment. And that's pretty much the last one I have, I think, on my list of, like, really modern stuff. But
to me, Punk should have been allowed to at least go to, like, a Ring of Honor show and defend the belt.
That's the thing. It's funny because I was thinking about that when I was writing this list. If that whole scenario would have happened recently, it probably would have been like that because, you know, WWE works with, like, Evolve and stuff now. Yeah, you know, they work with Evolve and other indie wrestling programs now, so it highly possibly could have happened if it happened now. But hindsight's 20/20. But I think in that moment, again, we're talking about moments in that moment, and at that Money in the Bank pay-per-view in 2011, I think that's an iconic moment in wrestling. Punk's crowning achievement. So I'm done with that.
Alright. Am I next?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to go... I'm not going in any order. The only one I'm saving is... I'm not even saving any of them. I don't know what I'm talking about. We're going to go with... I'm going to go with, like, the main match on my card, and it's not even... I have a couple matches on my card, but it's the moment that happened in the match. But the entire match of Steve Austin versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. That match to me is iconic.
Yes, it's the. I mean,
like, I know everybody talks about like Steve, like, trying to, like, power out of the sharpshooter with the blood flowing down his face and everything.
Yeah.
But, like, that's the highlight of it. But that entire fucking match.
Oh, yeah, the match is amazing. You know, you talk about, like, okay, maybe ECW had done it, but as far as, and I don't even know if they had done it, really. Yeah, they had. But as far as big league wrestling goes, WWF, WCW, that was the first time that you had an extended period, like a walk and brawl. Yeah. You know, which, you know, Jeff Jarrett then made a career out of. But anyway, that they went outside the ring, they walked through the audience, they punched each other, and then, you know, it's funny because my favorite WrestleMania match is Michaels and Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. But until Michaels and Undertaker had their match at WrestleMania 25, Bret and Austin is the greatest. And people can say Steamboat Savage, but I think that Bret and Austin is other than Shawn and Taker, the greatest Mania match ever.
I'm going to go on record of saying
that... Heat, man. Fucking heat.
I'm going to go on record of saying that Bret... And the reason I put it on my list, Bret Hart and Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13 is my favorite wrestling match of all time.
All right.
Like that.
I mean, I can't. There's no.
I think it's a fucking masterpiece.
It is, absolutely.
And it does so much. Like, people can say that Bret's like full of himself or whatever, and thinks he's his. And Bret Hart is Bret Hart's biggest critic.
Mm-hmm.
There's no denying that. But Bret Hart might be the best, like, storyteller in the ring.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really think that. And
I would give him the edge over, because Randy Savage is a great storyteller too, but I'd give Bret the edge over Savage, knowing that Randy Savage, I guess, rehearsed a lot of his stuff.
Yeah. And people say, "Oh, Bret was repetitive."
Well, every wrestler's repetitive.
Yeah, but I just think Bret Hart versus Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13 is the greatest wrestling match I've ever seen in my life. I really do.
It would be hard for someone to shit on that comment, so...
So, if they do, fuck them.
Fuck them. Fuck them. All right. And that is definitely... And, I know you said it. That,
yeah, like, Steve, like, passing out. For one, it's the greatest, like, double turn ever.
Mm-hmm.
And
for 90s wrestling fans, Steve Austin's bloody head at WrestleMania 13 is etched in your brain.
Yeah, and it's a great fucking story, and I love it. And I love WrestleMania. There's been people that have downplayed WrestleMania 13 also just because of, other than that match. So we're like, oh, it wasn't a great show. I love WrestleMania 13.
Yeah, I think it's a good show.
It's a great show.
It's a good show from top to bottom.
Yeah, everything about it's good. But that match, it's a fucking masterpiece. The commentators do a goddamn good job doing what they do. Bret and Austin are amazing in it. Like, fucking Bret and Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13. Like, when I was a kid, it was like what I just talked about with Scott Hall coming into WCW.
Mm.
Like, Scott Hall going into WCW and WrestleMania 13 were like...
the shit.
Fucking shit, man. That's what we were all talking about. And then after all that happened, then we were just telling, like, our teachers to suck it. Just cross-shopping people at school and we'd get in trouble. So I look back and think about myself and my 14-year-old buddies.
Suck it.
Just cross-chopping here, cross-chopping.
That's the bottom line.
Suck it.
So my next moment is also a WrestleMania moment.
They'd be like, you gotta keep your lunchbox in your locker.
Suck
it. Suck it. And then we'd wind up in ISS. We told Mr. Mallory to suck it. But go ahead, sorry.
My next moment is also another WrestleMania moment, and like you said about the match between Austin and Bret, the iconic moment obviously is the Austin head bleed sharpshooter, but like you said, the match is an iconic, and to me, the whole progression to get to this moment is iconic. It's the scene of Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, and Elizabeth at the end of WrestleMania 4.
I thought you were going to trump what I said, but that's a cool moment.
Savage with the belt and Elizabeth on his shoulder and Hulkster with him. I mean, and then you look at the tournament. WrestleMania 4 is a little long and some of it is a little boring, but the story of Randy Savage through WrestleMania 4 is amazing.
WrestleMania 4 as a pay-per-view and as a tournament is a great story.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a great story. There's some boner ass matches though in that tournament,
there are. And to me, like, WrestleMania 4, it's the crowd that fucks it up.
Yeah, that Trump Plaza atmosphere was...
If WrestleMania 4 would have been like Madison Square Garden
Mm-hmm.
or the Boston Garden, it would have been a different fucking pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
It really would. But the story of WrestleMania 4 is awesome.
Yeah, and like I said, just that, think of the iconic moment. You know, when I think of Macho Man, I think of Macho Man at WrestleMania 4 with Elizabeth on his shoulder and the WWF Championship.
Yeah, and Savage actually working his matches.
Yeah.
Going to guys that got buys and all that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I said, it was in front of like the first 15 rows or whatever of people that didn't give a shit about professional wrestling. But
they were just there to suck Trump's dick.
Yeah, if that would have been in a wrestling arena, that would have been a completely different thing. And when you watch it as a wrestling fan, you're like, this is a great fucking story.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing what it builds into is a year-long thing. It's fantastic.
Well, we've talked about
Hulk Hogan versus Randy Savage, and then building to the Mega Powers exploding is one of the greatest storylines ever written.
Oh yeah, we've talked about it on the show before. The two best stories that Vince McMahon has ever written was the story of Hogan and Savage and the story of Bret and Austin.
Yeah,
those are those two stories. Those are his greatest achievements. What's that?
Right. And himself in Austin.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, that WrestleMania 4, that moment sticks in my head, sticks in my crawl. So that one had to be on the list. So yes, Randy Savage, Elizabeth, and Hulk Hogan, the end of WrestleMania 4, iconic moment in professional wrestling history.
All right, and this is my next moment. I'm going to play audio, and if it doesn't sound good, you edit it out.
You got it.
Well, that's a lot of weight. There's 200-300 pounders up there. They're destroying the Hell in a Cell. And my God, don't get them over here where we are. What's going to happen here? Undertaker fighting back. He's fighting back. They're right above us, folks. And I don't like it a damn bit. Oh, my God.
My God, they killed him! Yeah, it was fine. Okay. Our listeners have come to accept your shitty audio anyway. I'm just kidding.
They can go fuck themselves.
That was actually, yes it is, it's on my list too. It was number 2 on my list. Mankind coming off the Hell in a Cell. Again, I know that
That's like some shit. Somebody's like, I don't know what wrestling is. Be like, okay, I'm gonna show you this.
Were you with me when that happened? Because I remember watching that. Like,
yeah,
that moment is so etched in my mind. We watched that in Bill Baisden's attic.
We watched that shit together.
And watching that pay-per-view, they went up to the top of the cage, and you're like, oh, what are they going to do? Because, Shawn had come off the middle of the cage into the tables. And at that point, that was like, goddamn. And then you're thinking in your head, there's no way they're going to, oh, fuck. It was insane. It was insane. Wrestling, there's the envelope has been pushed so much nowadays. And so many guys have done so many things, but I still don't think there has been a more death-defying thing in American wrestling as Mick Foley coming off the Hell in a Cell.
There's been nothing in any wrestling. Like people do shit now, and I watch it, and I'm just like, whatever. Because I know that it's it's a rehearsed situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I've heard Undertaker talk about it. I've heard Foley talk about it. I've heard other people talk about it. When Foley did that, Undertaker was like, "We're not doing that. You know,
Yeah.
we're not gonna do that." And then Foley's response was, in his mind, was, "If I get up there, he's got to do it." You know. So there wasn't like, you know, cardboard boxes underneath the table that he got thrown onto, or there wasn't like, you know, let's practice this 15 times just to make sure it's all right.
Yeah.
That was Mick Foley, and I'm not even saying that I think it was a smart idea or somebody should try to do something like that again. What Foley did was dumb.
Yeah.
You know, like that was a stupid idea. It's one of the greatest, if not the greatest moment ever in wrestling history. Watching that guy get thrown off that fucking cell is insane. And then everything that happens after it is fucking mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
well, and you know what?
Should not have been able to do any of that after it.
Wrestling doesn't have the stigma that it used to, okay? Because it became mainstream for a while, and it's become so sanitized. Nowadays, it's looked at as another form of entertainment. But I'm going to tell you this, those of you that are not older, you know, I'm 40. So for those of you that are in your 20s that listen to this show, I want to tell you something. In the 80s and 90s, if you were a wrestling fan, people constantly wanted to tell you that thing you liked was fake. And you know what this also did? Not only is it an iconic moment, but it gave you something to show non-wrestling fans that wanted to shit on what you loved.
Yeah.
You could show them something and go, well, fuck you, look at this.
Look at what this guy just fucking did.
Is that fake?
And then watch what he does afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people can say that, you know, and I know he's just passed away, and everybody talks about how tough he is, and he deserves to be talked about how tough he is. Like Harley Race, okay? Everybody talks about the badassness of Haku, just like he ate a guy's nose and rips people's eyes out and shit when he's provoked, and I understand that. And there's Bruiser Brody, and there's Stan Hansen, and there's fucking Scott Norton, and there's all these people. To me, when you watch something like that, the most badass human being ever is fucking Mick Foley. Say what you want to say about Harley Race. If you threw him off that fucking thing, he might have got up and walked out, but he would have been like, "I'm done.
I'm out." It's been a good career.
Yeah. Haku would have been like, "See ya, brother."
Race would have been like, "Somebody take my damn resignation."
Yeah, like the fact that Foley basically had a fucking another 10 minutes after that's fucking insane. And I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, that I have shown that to people that aren't wrestling fans.
Nobody ever shits on it.
No one ever shits on it. They're like,
Nope.
what the fuck just happened? Like, they're like, that's fucking insane. And I'm like, I know, right?
When I
God damn.
those of you that listen to the Motley Soup podcast, by the way, you can listen to that one too. That I host with my wife. When my wife and I first started dating, you know, every guy out there that's listening to this that's a wrestling fan knows when you first start dating a girl, you gotta ease into that. Hey, I'm a wrestling fan. But anyway, the first
Unless she's chubby, she might like it.
the first things that I showed her, and the first thing she fell in love with about wrestling, she's not a huge wrestling fan, but she tolerates it. She loves The Undertaker. You know, I showed her The Undertaker, and then I showed her this Mick Foley deal, and she was sold on, okay, it's cool for you to have your silly obsession with men in tights and buy action figures and stuff. But anyways, yes, like you said, you show a non-wrestling fan that, there's no way they can shit on it. And WWE is proving again it's an iconic moment. WWE is going to play that fucking thing in every entrance video for their program they ever have, no matter how PG their product is. So, yes.
And it might be the most realistic wrestling call ever, because Jim Ross believed,
Yeah.
but God, that they killed him.
They killed him. As God is my witness, they killed him.
Because he's broken in half. They killed him.
So the next one, unless there's anything else on that one, I mean, we could talk about that one for an entire episode, but
I know.
unless there...
2 years, and then I'm going to pee and smoke a cigarette, if that's okay.
Sure. All right. So I said I didn't have another modern one, but I guess I did.
So you're a liar.
Yeah, I'm kind of a liar.
That's fine.
Another iconic moment in wrestling, and it happened in 2014, the end of the streak. The end of The Undertaker's WrestleMania
I'll give you that, man.
winning
I will
streak.
give you that.
It was, again, you talked about being able to see his debut at Survivor Series 1990. We witnessed this man's career. We witnessed his WrestleMania streak. We watched it, and the way the build to that match went, that was the one year I was convinced, it's probably not going to happen. And then it did. And then that is the moment that silenced 70,000 people. You know what I mean?
I
You could hear a fucking pin drop in that place.
Yeah, I believe that, like, obviously we weren't in the building,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but I've seen video, or I shouldn't say, like, like, I know they say you could hear a pin drop in the Madison Square Garden when Ivan Koloff beat Bruno Sammartino for the WWF Championship. But I have a hard time believing that it was as quiet as when
Brock Lesnar pinned The Undertaker.
Yeah, pinned The Undertaker. Like, there were what, like 72,000 people in that building?
Yeah, around there. I'd have to look it up, but I think it was. Yeah, it was like 72, 73.
And you could verbally hear Paul Heyman go, "Oh my God, I can't believe it."
That's something I've always wondered too. I've always wondered.
I don't think Paul Heyman knew.
That's what I was gonna say. I've always wondered if Vince
I
Brock.
knew.
I've always wondered if Vince, Brock, Taker, and the
Brock
ref
were the only people that knew.
Do you think the ref knew? Because he has to know to actually count the three.
Okay, I'd say probably Vince.
And didn't Little Nate referee that one?
I think so.
Either him or Kyoto.
I'd say it was probably Vince, Taker, Brock, the ref, Hunter, and Stephanie.
Yeah.
Were probably the people that knew.
Yeah, I don't think Paulie got smartened up on that one because he's like, "Oh my God!"
You just beat The Undertaker
at WrestleMania.
I definitely know that black guy didn't know.
He's right up there with Foley. He's gonna be in every entrance video or every signature video.
He's up there with Foley
and Cena Kid.
And the Miz girl.
And fired up Cena Kid.
Yeah. He's right there with them.
But yeah, I definitely
that building, they didn't get it back either.
No. I mean, they did They did for the main event with Daniel Bryan. But until that main event with Daniel Bryan, they didn't. Because those people were depressed. If they wouldn't have let Bryan win, like if they decided they were going to end the streak, they literally had to let Bryan win that main event, or that would have been like panned as the worst WrestleMania, or like not the worst WrestleMania, but the least feel good WrestleMania.
But see, I don't even remember Daniel Bryan winning anything. That's what I'm saying.
He won the main event. He won the title that night.
See, I don't remember that. I remember going out on your porch and smoking a cigarette and being like, what the fuck just happened?
And yeah, I was about to say.
And going, I don't know if that was the coolest thing that's ever happened or the worst thing that's ever happened.
I just remember going out on the porch to smoke a cigarette after that match, and those of you that listen to this show know this is a big thing to say. Me, Aaron, and Kyle were kind of quiet. Like, did my childhood just die? But yeah, Taker.
Now he just loses to everybody.
Yeah. We had shitty matches with Goldberg. So yeah, the streak ending, a iconic moment in professional wrestling. What's next on your list?
It would be what do that could. Let's go with Shawn Michaels puts Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window.
I did not have that on my list, and I should have. Shame on me. What a moment in pro wrestling. And unfortunately, that means Beefcake was involved in an iconic moment in professional wrestling. However, the breakup...
Well, he was too dumb to figure out it was going to happen.
the breakup of the Rockers...
He was a rube in the situation.
For me, in 1991, when that happened, the breakup of the Rockers...
Go ahead.
No, that was just... It was devastating, because I was a huge Rockers mark. But it was also exhilarating because Shawn automatically just came off as, God, this guy is an amazing heel.
Yeah, and to me, as a small child, okay, it was the most violent thing I had ever seen in wrestling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like guys had turned on people. Like they had beat people up. You know, we had seen, like, you know, Ron Bass attack Brutus Beefcake and hit him with the spur, but it was censored.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but Shawn putting Marty through the barbershop glass was the most violent fucking thing I had ever seen in wrestling.
And
as a child, I know things had happened before that.
Oh yeah.
Like the Horsemen attacking Dusty Rhodes and like breaking his arm in the parking lot,
or the Road Warriors with the spike.
Yeah, but I hadn't seen that to where it was in my memory.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But to me, the first most violent thing I had ever seen was Shawn putting him through that window. And it might sound stupid, but I know Bobby afterwards was like, "Oh, I knew he was gonna do that," you know. But at the moment that Marty went through it, even Bobby Heenan was like, "Oh my god,"
mm-hmm.
You know. Even Bobby was like, "Oh shit." He didn't say "oh shit,"
right?
But he did without saying it. You know, like that was the first like impactful thing that I know of as a child. I'm going, holy shit, this guy's like a legit prick, you know.
And it was, you know, you look back on it now and it's like, well, you should have seen it coming, because they planted the seeds, and then when they came out, Shawn wasn't dressed like, you know, vibrant like Marty. He was in the black leather jacket. And, you know, you look back on it now and you're like, yeah. That was obvious, but at the time, well, fuck. Holy fuck.
Yeah. And Sean was like a complete asshole.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh man, it's okay, it's all right."
Shook his hand,
But
hugged the man,
hugged him.
then put him
But
through a plate glass window.
But when you talk about like iconic, that's why I was kind of asking you what you consider an iconic moment, because it might not be to other people, but to me that's something that I like. To me, that's like possibly the greatest heel turn ever.
Right.
Is Sean just putting his buddy through that fucking window? It might be the shittiest thing that anybody's ever done to anybody ever.
We've been tag team partners. We've been brothers.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to go on my own, so I'm going to put you through this window.
Through this fucking window. In front of this guy that can't articulate what just happened. I'm going to put you through this simpleton's window.
And nobody ever brought up the fact that, he left Brutus with the bill for that glass. Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace.
Yeah. The guy showed up and he's like, "I have this bill." He's like, "What do that could?"
How pay that could?
How pay that could I?
And Shawn Michaels is an asshole, so Brutus goes up to him with the bill, and Shawn's like, suck it.
Suck it.
All right, good pull on that one. The next one that I have on my list was also, and this goes to the Facebook page, and again, like I said, we didn't get a lot of comments on this because we record late as hell, and most of these people are probably in bed. It's a Tuesday night, for Christ's sake. But listener Jason Gear also picked this one as an iconic moment in wrestling, and that is the King of the Ring 1996 Stone Cold Steve Austin saying, Austin 316 says, "I just whooped your ass."
Well, goddamn Jason Gear. Just scratch something off my list.
So did I, right there. So good pull on you, Jason. Another one of those moments, and we're talking about the mid-90s, man, and that's another one of those moments where your jaw dropped.
Like, fucking Jake holding his ribs, just looking miserable. Fucking Michael PSAs is out there, and Steve Austin's like, "You can thump your Bible and talk about your Psalms." Well, Austin 316 says, "I just whipped your ass."
And you know what's great about that moment too?
It's
the breath. You can hear
thing.
you can hear the breath come out of the crowd when he says it.
It's like when I was talking about like putting your best friend through the window
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. That's like the shittiest thing you can do to your friend or whatever.
Salt in the wound.
Yeah, the you can thump your Bibles.
Talk about your Psalms. Talk about your John 3:16.
But Austin 316 says, "I just whipped your ass." The shittiest thing anybody's ever said to anybody.
And the birth of the probably the hottest career in the history of wrestling.
Yeah, like all those.
Well, the
people
birth
were,
of the I won't say birth of the
no,
career.
like you said, like the breath came out of those people. Like, what? And then like 20 seconds later, they were like, "That is the coolest thing anybody's ever said."
That's a T-shirt.
Like, this guy is a fucking bully, but he is cool as fuck. And yeah, man, like Austin 316 says, "I just whipped your ass." Might be the shittiest yet coolest thing anybody's ever said to anybody ever.
Get out of here, preacher man.
Fuck you. Your ribs don't work.
Jesus didn't come through for you tonight.
You beat your demons. Sure, you ain't smoking crack no more, but I broke your fucking ribs. And I just beat your fucking ass.
And now I'm gonna blaspheme your religion too.
Yeah. But I'm gonna destroy everything you believe in as you're being carried out.
Iconic moment. And again, one of those moments that WWE is gonna replay over and over and over again until people have completely forgot about it, which probably won't ever happen. And it started the biggest thing since Hulkamania started, you know?
I would say Austin 316 was probably even bigger than Hulkamania.
Possibly. So that being said, unless there's anything else on that, what's next on your list? Jason and I knocked Austin 316 off your list, apparently.
I have 2 Hogan things on my list, so I'll go with my first Hogan thing.
That's crazy. The next 2 things on my list are Hogan things.
Alright, well, maybe I'll knock them off your list. It would be Hulk Hogan pinning the Iron Sheik to win the WWF Championship.
That's not one of the Hogan things on my list, but that is definitely an iconic moment. That's the Austin 316 moment for Hogan.
Yeah, and it's I was trying to figure out, like, when I wrote it down, a way to, like, articulate it. It would be like him doing that, like, when we would watch it, would be like, I know, like, it happened the year I was born, 83, right?
Yeah. December of 83.
I was born in March of 1983. Okay? But we would go, you know, and rent video, like, I'm going to go into our childhood. Me and you would go and rent videos at, like, Video Connection or whatever you want to call it. And it would be the video that was in the plastic, like, box that you would open. And we'd watch it. And Hogan winning the WWF Championship from Iron Sheik, when I watched it, it was like a different era, like a different world,
different belt.
Yeah, he had, like,
it wasn't lit the way that, you know. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
He had the belt with like the different little plates on the side of it, and the leather was green and all that shit, and it wasn't like the winged world title that I remember Hogan having. So when I would watch it on video cassette, it was like, so what I'm saying makes sense. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it was that it was part of that open where, like, the stars,
like Vince was describing the,
yeah, and you know, he's talking about, like, in the time of Zeus and yeah. I'm trying to actually find it on YouTube right now so I can play it. But yes, it was an iconic moment. It was, I don't even know how to describe. I know what you're trying to say. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was, you at that time, like, okay, my first wrestling, for you, I can see what you're saying, because my first wrestling memory is actually before Hogan won the title. It's Hogan helping Bob Backlund against the Samoans. But still, that moment isn't etched in my mind other than that video. And like you said, it's like a blast from the past, or like something. I
Yeah.
didn't see this, but it seems like it was amazing.
Yeah. Like, I wish I would have been there when Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik. It would have been the greatest thing in the fucking world.
All right, Joyride Beads. I hear if you run long enough.
Which means they did their job.
Yeah.
You get something called a runner's high.
So what's next on your list?
So next on my list also involves Hulk Hogan. And it is that moment. It is that moment that we all know from WrestleMania 3 of Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant.
That was on my list. I gotta scratch it off.
It's funny because I actually, and I know it sounds silly, but I actually thought to myself when I was making that, is the more iconic moment Hogan slamming Andre the Giant? Or is the more iconic moment the stare down at the beginning of the match? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, the stare down at the beginning of the match is amazing too. That's another another amazing amazing screenshot, I guess I could say.
Everything about that match is great.
The funny thing is, the match itself isn't great. Like, the body of the match isn't great, but the iconic moments of the match are amazing. Absolutely amazing. And the image of Hogan slamming Andre, and that's another one that actually, it's an iconic image, but it's another one I didn't appreciate fully until I got older, because once I got older, then I actually, what do I want to say? I understood the beginning to the end of the, how Andre's iconic career, and then you realize how big a moment it was for Hulk Hogan to body slam Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
Even though other people had done it, I guess. Apparently Jerry Lawler did it.
Yeah, can I do something for you?
You can.
Hold on. You ready?
I am.
Even though you bitch about my fucking audio.
I think you're about to do the same thing I was going to do.
You ready?
Mm-hmm. You did. You're doing the same thing I was going to do. This makes me think about being a kid. Doesn't it make you think about being a kid? Makes me think about being a kid and Grandma letting us rent those videos.
That's what I'm saying. And they were like those shitty black, like, fucking VHS boxes.
Or when they'd put the video inside that plastic thing where you had to push the two things on the side to get the video to come out.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
And how much
Yeah,
of a pain in the ass it was to get fucking WrestleMania 4 out of its flip box. God damn it.
Hogan popped out and he was like, "What's up, brother?"
But yes, absolutely. That's, Hogan slamming Andre the Giant is an iconic moment. What?
Forgot we were talking about that.
So what's next on your list?
All right. Next on my list is I only have 2 left. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how many do you have left?
3.
And we're gonna talk about this one, and I'm gonna pee. It's Ric Flair winning the 1992 Royal Rumble and becoming the WWF champion.
God damn it, that's an amazing moment. With a tear in my eye, that's an amazing moment in the history of professional wrestling.
Are you saying "God damn it" because that's cutting it off yours?
No, no, it's not. I have a Ric Flair moment here, but it's not that one.
Well, that's mine.
Ric Flair, and at that time, it was an even more amazing moment because at that time it was still like, holy shit, Ric Flair's in the WWF. I mean, he still hadn't even gotten over that culture shock.
Yeah, and I've talked about this before, that the 1992 Royal Rumble has to be the greatest goddamn collection of fucking wrestling talent in one fucking match ever.
I have said this before. I don't know if I said it on the show or if I've said it to somebody else or what. I look at the 92 Royal Rumble, and this will play to what you're saying. I look at the 92 Royal Rumble as the official end of territory wrestling. And if
Because everybody's in it.
exactly, every really, I mean, I mean not Harley, but you know what I'm saying. Like every wrestler that in the early 90s that was a big name in a territory, that was a main event top guy in a territory that could have possibly been in a match, was in that match.
Guy is in that fucking thing.
Yes.
Other than like Barry Windham or Arn Anderson, they're fucking all in there.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Kerry Von Erich's in there, Ric Flair's in there,
Roddy Piper,
Roddy Piper's
Hulk
in
Hogan,
there, Rick Martel's in there,
Martel, yes, Valentine,
Sid, Hogan, fucking everybody's in
Tony
that
Atlas,
and fucking Flair beats them all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fucking masterpiece. Everything about that goddamn thing's a masterpiece. And fucking Bobby and Gorilla Bobby and Gorilla.
What are you, English? Are you English?
Huh?
Are you English? Gorilla.
They're all fucking amazing. Everything about that fucking thing is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of it, fucking Flair's standing at the fucking top of it. And it's great because, like, he's with Mr. Perfect, you know?
Mm-hmm. And Bobby.
And Bobby. And when Flair comes out, Bobby doesn't believe that he's going to win. You know? Perfect doesn't believe he's going to win. And you have this slight thought that even Ric Flair going in doesn't believe he's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But they do.
And I've watched that match.
And all three of them at the end of it are just like, we get it.
I've watched that match. I've watched that match probably, I don't know, I'm going to say easily 100 times in my life, okay?
Davy's in there. Davey Boy Smith does a great job in that match. match.
Can I tell you something about that match you may have never noticed, and I have just recently? Because, again, I've watched that Royal Rumble match literally 100 times in my life, okay? And there's something that the last time I watched it, you know how, like, you watch a movie or you watch a match or something, and every time you do, because you're not, I don't want to say you get less focused, but you start noticing littler things because you know how it goes?
Yeah.
That match was also in 1992 significant in that before Ric Flair came to the WWF, okay, who was the biggest heel in the WWF?
Ted DiBiase.
Yes. In that match, Ted DiBiase passes the torch as the biggest heel in WWF to Ric Flair.
Yeah, they pass each other.
They do literally pass each other. DiBiase starts the match and Flair ends the match. And I never noticed that till the last time I mean, it was there, but I never noticed it till the last time I watched it. I was like, fuck, Pat Patterson's a fucking genius.
Yeah, they literally walk past each other.
Yes. It's amazing. It's amazing. And the greatest Royal Rumble ever. It'll never be surpassed as far as Royal Rumble matches go, I don't think, until, long after I'm dead. And, yeah, absolutely. Ric Flair winning the 92 Royal Rumble definitely deserves a spot on that list.
That's why I put it on there.
So the next one.
If I'm the person that's coordinating things.
The next one we're going to talk about also involves Hulk Hogan. For my last one, I said Hogan slamming Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. The next one is Hulk Hogan turning heel at Bash at the Beach 1996 and joining the NWO. I mean, for someone that was a little stinking Hulkamaniac in the 80s, starting to smarten up about the business in the 90s, I mean, Hulk Hogan turning heel was a big fucking deal.
Yeah, and Hogan turning heel is one of the 2 wrestling conversations on the phone that I remember having with you.
Yeah? I don't remember this.
You don't remember this one?
No.
It was like, okay, you were a teenager that had a job in 96. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you were working at like fucking
I was working at Musicland.
Musicland. Yeah. So you were of the age that you were not going to grandma's house for the summer. You know?
Mm-hmm.
But you were watching that and you called me on the phone, and so you called me long distance.
You want to hear how good my memory still is at 40?
Okay.
Wait, were you at Grandma's?
Yeah.
No. I was going to recite our phone number from our old house on Chestnut Street, but so I probably would have called you at 419-243-8725.
You called me at grandma's house.
Well, I would have called you from.
Yeah, you called me from grandma's house you called me to grandma's house from Toledo, telling me that Hulk Hogan turned heel. I was like, holy shit.
Holy shit.
Holy shit. Like, the only other thing that you ever called me that I can remember on the phone for was Owen dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to talk about that.
For those of you that don't understand the gravity of this, Nate is not a phone guy. Nate does not like to talk on the phone. Nate doesn't even answer the phone.
I don't like talking on the phone either. But either way, those were the 2 wrestling conversations we've had on the phone. And when you told me Hogan turned, that was back when you could still watch a pay-per-view through, like...
Scribbly vision?
Yeah, you couldn't see it, but you could hear it. You know? And I tuned the TV enough to watch, like, the replay of hearing Hogan turning. And Hogan turning was fucking insane. It's fucking insane.
The promo afterward, the garbage in the ring, just the image of red and yellow Hulk Hogan giving Randy Savage that leg drop. And you know what? It speaks to the talent of
Hogan. The worst leg drops ever.
It is. But what speaks to the talent of Hogan for me in that match, or in that moment, is, okay, for 10 years of my life, or whatever it was, 11, 10 years of my life, Hulk Hogan's face, his face, epitomized good. Okay? And we can talk about what's happened since and what we know about, kind of a dirtbag he was and shit, but whatever. But when he turns heel and he does that promo, here's how good Hogan was. His face became evil. Does that make sense?
And honestly, if it would have been anybody other, and this guy doesn't get enough credit for it, if it would have been anybody other than Mean Gene interviewing him, it wouldn't have meant as much.
No.
If it would have been like Tony Schiavone or fucking Chris Cruz,
Mike Tenay,
or anybody else out there, if it wouldn't have been Mean Gene, it wouldn't have mattered as much.
No, because he was so closely identified with Hogan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if it would have been anybody else...
All the garbage in this ring.
Yeah, and Gene getting pelted out there with him, it wouldn't have meant as much. And if... Like, I think this guy gets a bad rap, too. Like, when Hogan's coming down,
Mm-hmm.
and they edit it out, and when Bobby goes,
whose side is he on?
Yeah, like, Bobby Heenan's character should have fucking thought that.
Well, yeah, and Bobby did a great job in that night and the weeks after, being like, I have told you people about Hogan for years.
Yeah, like people downplay or disparage Bobby for going, whose side is he on? Bobby should have said that.
Yeah, his character should have said that, because Bobby Heenan's character had been telling us for years not to trust Hulk Hogan.
Motherfucker. It's a piece of shit. Like, if Bobby would have been like, hey, yay, Hulk Hogan's here, I would have been like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But Bobby's character should have been like, don't trust this motherfucker. He's gonna slip it in your butt. And that's what he did. And I've been telling you guys this for 10 years. He's been building towards this, that he's gonna slip it in your butt.
Brother. Put in your butt, brother.
Yeah. Hogan's the only person that could turn Bobby Heenan face. And he fucking did it.
So yeah, Hogan turning heel. So you have one left?
Yeah.
What is it?
I'm gonna check on my pizza.
Okay. So what is next? What is next on your list?
Well, it would be last on my list.
On your list.
Last on my list is something that I put on my list a couple hundred times, and it might be my favorite wrestling thing ever
Wow.
is Jerry Lawler slapping Andy Kaufman on David Letterman.
Another fantastic suggestion.
Like, to me, that's the greatest thing that's ever happened in wrestling.
My question about that moment.
It's seriously the greatest thing that's ever happened.
Slaps the
Because
fuck out
it took people that don't even care or know anything about wrestling and made them think, holy shit.
What
that's
the fuck
real.
just happened?
That's fucking real.
So my biggest question about that moment, and that is an amazing pick that I did not think of. But my biggest question about that moment that I've had, and we haven't talked about it on the show before, and like Conrad says, I don't know when we'll talk about it again, so let's address it, is do you think, based on the reaction, etc., do you think Dave was in on it? Do you think he knew what they were going to do? Because this is early 80s TV, you know, it's still like kind of the Jungle's Wild kind of thing, you know, like it wasn't like today's TV where it's so, you know what I mean?
This is what I think.
Like, did Dave know that was going to go down?
It doesn't downplay the impact of the moment, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Dave probably knew that Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman didn't hate each other. But I don't think David Letterman knew that Jerry Lawler was going to just
haul off and slap that motherfucker.
Yeah, I don't think he knew it was going to. I don't think he. I think he knew those guys got along, but I don't think he knew that Lawler was going to smack the fuck out of him, and then Kaufman was going to come back with all them fucking explicitives.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think Letterman probably knew it was a work, but he didn't know it was going to be like that.
Which makes it even better.
Yeah, like, holy shit.
But to David Letterman's credit, and I mean, he may or may not get enough credit for it, but of all the guys in television that worked for corporate TV in the years, man, you got to give Letterman credit. That guy, he knew entertaining, and he would let it be on his show whether people were going to tell him not to or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, Letterman is up there with just the shining lights of entertainment.
And I've gone on record as saying it a couple times that I think Jerry Lawler smacking Andy Kaufman on the fucking Letterman show is the greatest wrestling work in history. It's the best. Like, I watch it now and I'm like, Jesus Christ. These guys were just
Amazing.
They were fucking artists.
Capture your imagination.
And I watched their feud and everything, and there's that. Have you ever watched that Kaufman documentary?
Yeah.
Where, like, Tony Danza's in it, and, like, Mary Lou Retton and all that, and they're interviewing them, and this is, like, they have the WWE Hall of Fame, and people talk about, oh, this person shouldn't be in the WWE Hall of Fame, and that person shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, and blah, 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 blah. I don't want to hate on it, you know? But I don't want to, like, unless Andy Kaufman's in a Hall of Fame with wrestling, there shouldn't be a Celebrity Hall of Fame.
Right.
Like, why is Mr. T in the WWE? Like, I have no problem with the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame. I have no problem with it. Unless Andy Kaufman's in it.
I see your point, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for just a second. But I think the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame, if you look at it, it is celebrities that have actually been in WWE. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I absolutely think that Andy Kaufman should be in it. But I think that's the reason. I think it's more a if you look at the celebrity wing, it's not all inclusive. It's mostly it's all celebrities that have been involved in an actual WWF WWE angle.
Yeah.
So that could be the only thing I could think of would be the reason for why he's not in the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame.
Still
Plus
bullshit.
the people involved have to accept it. You know what I mean? Like maybe they have reached out, and whoever is the representative or whatever for Andy Kaufman's estate is like, no. You know, just
They
like
would've-
Owen.
would've-
Like I'm sure if Martha Hart would have accepted Owen being in the Hall of Fame, he would have been in the Hall of Fame by now. Do you see what I'm saying?
Andy Kaufman's family would have accepted. I'm just saying they would have accepted.
So I have 2 left on my list. The one of them is one of those moments that you said, like you were saying earlier, you didn't actually witness it in person. You were too young, et cetera, or it just wasn't on your radar. It wasn't on your TV. But as you go forward in time, or as you come forward in time, and you've watched the history of wrestling now, this one is in my list, and it is Starrcade '83, Ric Flair defeating Harley Race for the NWA Championship.
Yeah.
Flair in the cage, on everybody's shoulders, celebrating his win. That was an angle that I honestly did not... Okay, so when that happened, I was 5. I probably did not even discover that angle until I was somewhere between 10 and 13 years old.
Yeah, when retarded Angelo Mosca was out there.
His son's worse than Eric Watts, by the way.
He's like a Cro-Magnon.
What was his name? Like Johnny Mosca or something?
It was Angelo Mosca Jr.
All right, whatever. That's the shits.
What was Angelo Mosca's son's name? It was Angelo Mosca Jr.
Yeah, that shows you how much impact it made on me. His name's Phil Mosca, all right? Fuck that guy. That's terrible.
This is the best part. I'm gonna see if it's turned up. Hold on.
We've got off topic.
I was a Yankee, and I heard this from so many people in Memphis. I was going down there, and because
There are a lot
all
of
that
people,
stuff
like I
that I
said,
was.
there are a lot of people that think that, and he was one of them. And I did to Andy
And
exactly
you're lucky
what I
that
would
I
like
didn't
to do
sue
to
you.
everybody that thinks that way.
You're lucky I
because
didn't sue you.
It was a chance to show him exactly what
Would
it's
you
really
now-
like.
if there
You
were-
found out what
would
it's
you-
really
Because
like.
let me tell you something. My father said, my manager said, they all said that I had a right. I could have gotten a lawyer and I could have sued you for what you did, and I didn't. And all I wanted is an apology. Even you asked me last time I was on your show if I was going to have to sue you. I could have sued you for everything you're worth.
Well-
I didn't. Because I'm not that kind of a guy.
Yeah. Now, you know what?
What kind of a guy are you?
Here, we're going to
As far as I'm
pause here for
concerned,
station identification. Get the hoses out here.
He smacks the shit out of him, and it's just like. And the band starts playing. cracks me up. What kind of man are you? Oh, can I make it? Because there's like all this real shit happening around this stupid fucking wrestling angle. But Lawler smacks the fuck out of him. And then the band just starts playing. It's like, okay.
In grand David Letterman fashion. Anything else on Flair and Race at Starrcade?
It was a good match.
I just think it's an iconic moment, Flair winning the title.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all right. So my number one moment, and then we'll talk about a couple listener moments, and then we'll take a break and talk about some championships. All right, so my favorite episode, my two favorite episodes of Monday Night Raw are both from 1997. And I've talked about it on the show here before. My favorite episode of Raw is the Austin Bret Hart Ambulance Raw.
Yeah.
I love that Raw. My second favorite Raw is from September 22nd, 1997. And it's in Madison Square Garden. You have that amazing Mick Foley, the Three Faces of Foley, where they debut Cactus Jack in the WWF. And
he sells it like a champ.
Blah, blah, oh yeah, fuck yeah. But iconic moment number one here for me is that's the first time Vince McMahon got the stunner. That, I don't know if I've ever seen a wrestling crowd as hot as that moment.
Yeah.
Like, I want to send that video to Vince McMahon and be like, this, if you want hot wrestling crowds and not these crowds that sit on their fucking hands at a Raw or SmackDown, what the fuck? That is, I mean, and like we've talked about before on the show, it's funny how as time went on, Vince became kind of, like immune to stunners or whatever. It's kind of funny. But
he takes that when he flops like a fish.
Yeah, like a dead fish.
And he fucking takes him and pop him back up.
But I mean, is that or is that not iconic? Like, does that not stick in your brain?
Yeah.
I mean, that whole show sticks in my brain. But that crowd, the chemistry between Austin and McMahon, when Austin's like, I can appreciate the fact that you care. Well, yeah, but I can also appreciate the fact that you can kiss my ass. And then he stuns him. And Jim Ross is like, Jerry Lawler's like, he's fired.
And Jim Ross is like, God damn, I need a job.
Steve Austin is not going to be Employee of the Month.
Just JR's just worried about losing his job.
What a moment. And that was number one on my list. So unless you have anything else to say on that one, we'll go to some of the important people, our listeners.
Okay, let's take a quick break.
Well, we won't take a break for the listeners, but we'll take a quick break for us. So let's go to our listeners. Or not.
Hi there, and welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. As you can tell, Andy Kaufman is here, sort of, and Jerry Lawler is also here, and there's some nights I wish Tom were here, but that's not the case. Is Andy, are you coming in here again, or?
I am sick of this bullshit. You are full of bullshit, my friend. I will sue you for everything you have. I will sue your ass. You're a motherfucking asshole. As far as I'm concerned, you hear me? A fucking asshole. Fuck you. I will get you for this. I am sorry to use those words on television. I apologize to all my fans. I'm sorry. But you're a fucking asshole. You're a fucking asshole.
can't do is throw coffee. I've said it over and over again. Well, that about wraps this segment up. I want to thank my guests, Mr. Lawler, Jerry, thank you.
You know what's funny about that? I mean, other than the whole thing. I think it's great because at first, if you listen, like when he first says you're an asshole, the crowd's like, I don't know if we're supposed to laugh or not.
You're a motherfucking asshole. We're like, yeah, we're down now.
It's all good. So now we go to our listeners as we have covered our iconic moments in pro wrestling. And like I said, it's late. I know, we record this show late. So we didn't get a ton of comments, but we did get a few. We mentioned earlier Jason Gear. Thank you for agreeing with me. Austin316 says, I just whooped your ass. Another listener of the show, Ashley J. Smith, commented, Mick Foley winning the WWF Championship.
Yeah.
As an iconic moment. And it really was. I mean, at that time, you know, especially knowing the history, and at that time you did know the history, of how that guy was not supposed to be a WWF superstar.
Yeah.
You know, Vince doesn't like him. He's fat. He's got a big, fat, flat ass or whatever. And I agree with Ashley there. That's an iconic moment in wrestling. You know, him running around the ring with the title and Vince's reaction. And I didn't think about that one when I was making that. What's that?
No.
What's that?
Shane's reaction where he was just like, no.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Like, see, that would be an iconic moment, but I would almost put that as more than an iconic moment, as like a feel good moment.
Oh, absolutely. That's definitely one of the best feel good moments ever.
Like, and I'm not discounting that it was an iconic moment, but I would put that more as like not like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that as, oh, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, or this is the greatest moment I've ever seen happen to somebody, but as this is like, it just made me happy.
Yeah.
That Mick Foley got his moment as being champion. You know?
And on top of that, it was a nice fuck you moment for the WWF to WCW too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pre-taped. Yeah, you gave out the spoiler. But people tuned in and watched it anyway. And if that's not a testament to Mick Foley's talent, I don't know what is.
Yep.
And the other comment we got here is from a guy you and I both know, Aaron, Chris Wood. Big shout out to Chris.
He doesn't like The Undertaker.
Well, Chris says, I would have to say it would be the end of WrestleMania 20. That image of Chris and Eddie victorious with all the confetti and the absolute display of emotion and success. And we don't talk about Benoit a lot on this show because we have our personal feelings about. But if you're taking it in the moment, he's right. I mean, that was a big moment. That was an iconic moment, the end of WrestleMania 20.
It was.
I mean, I can remember.
I don't look at Chris Benoit. How should I say it? I don't look at Chris Benoit of. I know there's people that don't watch Chris Benoit matches, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. I don't. When I watch a Chris Benoit match, I don't watch a Chris Benoit match knowing of how he ended. I watch a Chris Benoit match of what it was like in the moment.
The body of his career. Yes.
Yeah. That's get it.
You think about. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think about when I watched WrestleMania 20.
It's not the same thing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But it would be like, oh, I'm just never going to watch a Robin Williams comedy special anymore.
Right. Or I'm never going to watch another Hulk Hogan match.
Well, he didn't, kill himself.
But
He did do
kind of outed himself as a racist fuck.
Yeah.
You
Or it would be like, oh, I'm just never gonna
I'm never gonna enjoy another. I mean, it's like me saying I'm never ever going to be able to watch one of my favorite movies ever, which is Usual Suspects, because Kevin Spacey, that piece of shit, is in the movie. It's yes, you're right. Art is art, and most artists. I mean, if we're going to talk about artists and we're going to talk about Hollywood, I mean, most of those people are fucking dirtbags. You know what I mean?
I just thought, I like Deadwood. Okay, I know I've told you that before.
Yeah.
I was a Deadwood fan. It played for 3 seasons. Okay, and then in May they put out a movie that summed up the rest of Deadwood, because Deadwood ended in its 3rd season, and it went 13 years before it had a fucking ending. Okay, I just watched the movie yesterday. 13 years ago, guess who was in Deadwood?
Who?
Jeffrey Jones.
Ugh. So there you go.
Guess who was in the movie version of Deadwood?
Jeffrey Jones?
For 5 minutes. Jeffrey Jones. I didn't let the fact that Jeffrey Jones has had some shit thrusted upon him that he deserved make me say, oh, I'm not going to watch this movie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I totally understand.
When Chris Benoit comes on my TV, I watch the match. Because it might be wrong, but I just look at Chris Benoit in a match as this is what the guy was when he was alive.
And it's not wrong, because it's art. And like I always say, it's art. It's art. It's subjective. Like, I can watch somebody in a movie, or I can listen to somebody sing a song and say, okay, that person was a talented person in the art that they decided to go into. It doesn't necessarily mean they were a good person.
Yeah.
You know?
When Pretty Young Thing by the Jackson 5 comes on, we'll rock that shit.
Right. ABC.
Jackson was a pervert. ABC, fucking Man in the Mirror.
Black or White.
Black or White. That's how he didn't care what his kids looked like. Do I agree with it? No. But the fucking song's good.
Absolutely. Good suggestions from our listeners.
Sorry if I went on some kind of weird tangent.
It's all right. It's our podcast. Good suggestions.
I just mentioned that Jerry Lawler's in my favorite, most iconic moment.
And he's a possible pedophile.
Oh, he's a possible? I asked that with the heightened question
Possible?
mark. Possible? Probably?
So we're going to take a break on the We Can't Wrestle podcast, and when we return, we're going to talk, like we did on the last episode, about some wrestlers that we identify with
As pedophiles.
with specific championship belts. I like this little exercise.
I invented it.
Yes, you did. Credit where credit is due.
Take credit for my creation.
What?
I didn't want you to take credit for my creation.
Have I ever done that?
Yes,
When?
a couple times. We'll talk about it later.
So we'll take a break. We'll come back, and when we return, we will have some title identification scenarios right after this on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. All right, listeners, welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. And just a quick reminder that you can listen to this show no matter where you're downloading it. You can listen to it on any podcast app that you subscribe to, or you can also listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, anywhere you can find your favorite wrestling podcasts. We are available. And also, just a reminder, just to save my marriage, you can listen to the Motley Soup podcast as well. Search for that on, again, any podcast app, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Check out the Motley Soup podcast as well. That being said, now we are going to do a segment.
And another friendly reminder
All right.
is that Captain Lou, who's in his corner, has said a lot of folks have noticed that China has changed since she originally appeared in the WWF. I did my homework, and this is the list of her cosmetic surgeries. Breast augmentation, December 1997. Second breast augmentation, March 1998. Facial reconstruction, November 1998. That's what Captain Lou said.
Well, he has some big titties, too. So.
That was Waffle House augmentation.
So the next segment we're going to do is we're going to talk about some titles, some wrestling championships, and people we identify with those titles. And Aaron sent me this list, and I'm responding spur of the moment, because that's the best way to respond to something. Spur of the moment. It's the best way to respond to something like this. And the first one that you recommended was the WCW World Television Championship, and my pick is Arn Anderson.
Okay.
When I think of the WCW TV title, I think of Arn.
Well, I haven't. You expound on it, and then I'll tell you what my version was, because it wasn't Arn.
He had the best matches with the title. And much like Kurt Hennig with the Intercontinental Championship, when I think of that belt, the first person I think of is Arn wearing that belt around his waist with the 4 horsemen symbol flashing. And that's just it. I mean, that's the best I can say on that.
Okay. I didn't say Arn Anderson on mine.
Okay.
The person I said, and my with age, okay, is Steven Regal.
And another good pick. He was my second. He was my second pick for identifying with that title. Like, is not one of the best programs ever Regal and Zbyszko for the TV title?
And I just, when I think of that title, I think of the fact that I understand what you're saying with Arn Anderson, but to me, I think of William Regal going out there and having like 15-minute time limit draws, like WCW Saturday Night, and it being like the best fucking match you've seen on the show, and the guy had like the best matches with anybody.
And he did.
Like, he'd go out there and have like a 15-minute time limit draw with like fucking, I'm gonna say a guy or whatever, and he was great. But like, he'd go out there and have like 15-minute time limit draws with people like Brad Armstrong, and it's like, this fucking thing was great, you know. And like Regal, when he was in WCW, no matter what, would have like the best match with anybody on the show, and he was usually the TV champion during. And it would be some kind of time limit draw or double disqualification or whatever, and he would like escape out of there with his belt. And I dug when he was like, one of my favorite acts is Steven Regal with Bill Dundee as Sir William. It was fucking great.
Yes, it was. And I gotta say, I mean, like I said, I put Arn over at the beginning, but. When I think of WCW Clash of Champions specials, I think of Steven Regal TV title defenses.
Yeah.
So I can absolutely see where you're coming from with that.
So I'm right. Okay.
So the next one, and I'm going to let you go first this time, WCW Tag Title.
The Steiner Brothers. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just waiting for you to tell me why.
Oh, because in my childhood, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed NWA, WCW more than I enjoyed WWF because I liked the wrestling aspect of it. And when when I think of like the Steiner Brothers, I harken back to WCW, and I think of guys like, to me, like WCW was like Sting, Luger, the Great Muta, Big Van Vader, and the Steiner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of them as being the champs in the situation, and like Rick like holding the belt in his mouth while Scotty stood over him while Rick was on his arms and legs like a dog, and those guys like fighting like the Nasty Boys and Doom and all that shit, and just the Steiner Brothers were fucking awesome.
I don't disagree.
When I think of the WCW Tag Team Championships, I think of like Rick holding it in his mouth and Scott holding it over him and just being the end all be all.
And I don't have any disagreement there, because for that title I actually have two selections, and one of them was the Steiners, and the other one is Harlem Heat.
You had two for the last one too. You're cheating. That's cool.
Kinda. No, I didn't. I said Arn.
And then you're like, yeah, I can see Regal.
Well, I mean, I can see Regal. I can see plenty of guys with the Intercontinental title too. But anyway.
Yeah, I can see. Harlem Heat would be a close second.
Harlem Heat just as a team, and it's funny because they're one of those teams like we talked about earlier. Shawn Michaels putting Marty Jannetty through the plate glass window. It is it is really a Sean and Marty scenario with Harlem Heat because Stevie Ray, like Booker really was the guy in that, you know, like Stevie Ray. People talk about teams a lot, and they talk about like the Marty Jannetty of the team. Stevie Ray was the Marty Jannetty of the team. He was a great tag team wrestler.
Yeah, he held up his own.
But singles wise,
together, single wise,
Booker was the man.
Yeah, but see, I'd say Marty. I know you're gonna say, "Oh, you're right," but I'd say Marty's better than Stevie Ray.
But yeah,
wrestler any day of the week.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
But I think that after the era of, and the reason I brought Harlem Heat up was after the era.
The minute Stevie Ray started hanging out with Vincent, you're like, I'm done with
Yeah.
you.
But the reason I brought that up is like after the era of the Steiners and Doom and Gordy and Williams, I think that Harlem Heat brought prominence to the title more than anybody else.
Okay. They had Rob Parker with them, that helped, and Sister Sherry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Harlem Heat was a package.
I agree.
Like, if they wouldn't have had managers...
But I'd also say that I would also say that about the Steiners, though. Because
They didn't need a manager, though.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, I guess the reason I'm saying that is because after the tag team broke up, I'm not near as much a fan of the Steiners as I am as them as a tag team.
Okay, well, we were just talking about belts.
Right.
So I'm not, like, saying to the single star. If we were going to the single stars, honestly, I'm a bigger fan of Big Papa Pump than I am Booker T.
I disagree.
Now, I didn't say King Booker.
Well, fuck. I'm talking about the guy's whole career.
I'm talking about just Booker T.
The World Heavyweight.
I'm talking about Booker T, Big Papa Pump. I'm a Big Papa Pump fan. When you go with WCW.
I'm not so much a Big Papa Pump fan.
I'm talking about just WCW. I'm a bigger fan of Big Papa Pump in WCW than I am single Booker T.
Nah.
Because Big Papa Pump in WCW, funny as fuck.
Okay, he was funny, but his matches fucking sucked.
I don't care about matches. I care about this motherfucker's entertainment. He's gonna entertain me.
I don't care about fucking matches. It's wrestling, but I don't care about matches.
No! Wrestling ain't all about matches.
It's not all about matches.
It ain't all about matches, man.
But the angle and the promos have to lead to a good match.
Not necessarily.
Yes, necessarily.
Just has to be entertaining as
Fucking
fuck.
necessarily.
If the match is the only thing that matters, then fucking Brad Armstrong would have been the fucking greatest thing on earth. You know me. I'm a Brad Armstrong fan. About the fucking promos and what gets you there. Fucking Scott Steiner was entertaining as fuck.
I don't know. I look at Steiner much like I look at Shane Douglas.
Entertaining and funny.
I group Steiner with Douglas. Like, okay, you have cut a promo, and you have... This is going to get into an argument, but that's all right. 'Cause,
Let me say this,
beers.
okay? Talk about
No,
this.
hold on. I haven't finished my
Oh,
thought.
no, shut up for a minute. You talking about those guys? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Okay?
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Guess who else got a great, funny promo? And
backed it up with good matches?
and didn't have good matches.
Oh, well, that's not what I'm talking about, though.
No, I'm talking about listen to this guy that had great promos, but didn't have really good matches. But you can't say or deny that you don't think is super awesome. You ready? You ready? You ready? Oh, man. Yeah.
But he did have good matches.
He have great matches.
Yeah. So it's not.
Scott
It's
Steiner-
not.
Scott
It's
Steiner and
not.
Shane Douglas had Scott Steiner. And
Scott
Shane
Steiner.
Douglas had good
Scott
matches.
Steiner. Once he got ballooned up, never had a good match. Ever.
He did.
No, he didn't. What?
Good
What
matches.
match? When? Cite one.
I'll have to sit back and watch and get dates. But I'll bring you 5 good Scott Steiner matches.
That's a challenge for the next episode.
Oh,
Because
I'll
once he
write
got
it.
ballooned up and started dropping shit and fuck and shit in his promos like Shane Douglas, he didn't have good matches. Shane Douglas at November to Remember 97. We're getting into Shane Douglas, and he's not even on this fucking list because, he's kind of an afterthought.
But Shane Douglas had good matches though.
When? I'm talking about.
had-
I'm talking about
Are you talking
after he
match?
started using fuck and shit as the promo, as the keys for his promos.
He had that good match at that WrestlePalooza with Al Snow.
It was all right.
That's a good match.
It's all right. How does Shane? How do you have a bad match with Bam Bam Bigelow? November to Remember
Brought up
'97.
Bam Bam Bigelow out of nowhere. I said Al Snow.
Well, I'm citing the match.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll add that to my list. You said, tell me a good Shane Douglas match. I said
And you
Al Snow
didn't.
WrestlePalooza,
It's kind of.
And
It's
then-
kind of whatever.
and then you said Bam Bam Bigelow. So I'll add that to my list. So Bam Bam, Al Snow.
The worst major Bam Bam Bigelow match I've ever seen. Major. Not a squash match or some shit like that. Not a doink match with Phil Apollo or Ray Apollo or whatever the fuck his name was. Bam Bam Bigelow had a shitty match with Shane Douglas. Shane Douglas's promos going to the match were great. That's fine. All right, you conned me into a ticket, but that doesn't mean you were a good performer as a wrestler.
I know, but I'm just saying, you said, tell me a good Shane Douglas match, asshole. And then you were like, oh, he had a good match with Bam Bam Bigelow. So that's when I went, so I'll add the Bam Bam match and the Al Snow match.
No, I said the Bam Bam match was shitty. I said, how do you have a bad match with Bam Bam Bigelow? Because nobody really had a bad match with Bam Bam Bigelow. Anyway. I don't even know where the fuck we were.
Who do you recognize as the European champion?
D'Lo Brown.
That's what I said too.
Oh, look, we're in agreement. Fucking D'Lo, man. Like, did anybody do more for that belt than D'Lo Brown?
Did anybody do more for any belt than the European Championship?
Oh, fuck no.
Other
Like,
than Hulk Hogan with the WWF Championship.
Like,
D'Lo Brown treated like you laughed But I'm saying, like, D'Lo Brown treated that fucking thing like it was the WWF Championship.
He did, and that's the point. Like, and that's why I said Arn with the TV title. And you were right about Regal with the TV title. Like, a guy that gets that belt
I'm gonna hold on to this motherfucker.
in a worked business. In a worked business. And when you watch it on TV, you feel like, yes, that guy, and you know what? Going back to Ashley J. Smith's comment on our iconic moments, can you say that about Mick Foley and the WWF title? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that guy, you felt his passion through your TV. D'Lo Brown was so happy and so exuberant to be a champion in the WWF. I mean, you know, say what you want about the European title. It was just there and blah, blah, blah. People criticize it now and they can go fuck themselves because these guys are workers.
But when D'Lo had it, it fucking mattered.
Absolutely. And to a testament to his talent and his passion, how could two of us say that guy epitomized a title more than a guy that was actually from Europe, Davey Boy Smith? You know what I mean?
And
not that Davey Boy wasn't a great champion. I'm not saying that. I'm not dismissing his title reign. But D'Lo, and you know who else made that title feel important? He wasn't the one I necessarily identified with the title, but another guy that made that title feel important was Al Snow.
yeah.
You know, where they'd be like, Al Snow says he's from Belgium or whatever, you know, like...
Yeah, but his was like goofy.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Like he'd have the fish inside the pizza box.
Yeah.
But D'Lo was just like, hey, I'm from Brisbane tonight. But he would go out there and have a great match.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand what you're saying about Al Snow, but when I think of the European Championship and somebody holding it seriously in their hands and posing for a picture or whatever, I think of D'Lo Brown.
I agree. Absolutely agree.
Okay.
When I think of that belt, I think of D'Lo bobbing his head with a chest protector on.
You look at the real deal now. Woo! There goes Mac and me. Woo!
Mac. And the last championship we have to talk about that you put on this list is the ECW World Television Championship.
Yep.
Who do you identify most with that title?
RVD.
Same. I mean, honestly, how could anybody not?
He held it for 700 days.
Well, not just that, but just... There was Eddie Guerrero, there's Dean Malenko, yes, I know, there was Too Cold Scorpio, but... Like you said, to identify yourself with a championship, to hold it for 700 days, and to, like we said about D'Lo, in a kind of less respect, I guess. I mean, I don't know, but to just to be the guy that you're like, man, that guy, that title means so much to that guy. You know what I mean? In a worked business, this is real. To him. I agree. RVD as the ECW World Television Champion, that's who I identify when I see that, when I hear that title.
There was one guy that I almost put over him, but I didn't do it. So
Who was it?
Shane Douglas. When Shane had it, like going into the barely legal pay-per-view, like feuding with the pit bulls and shit, Shane Douglas, I think, made it mean something, and then RVD took it and moved it on. You know what I mean? To where it meant more than the ECW title.
Yeah.
But Shane made it important, and then RVD made it the belt.
On our last episode, I talked about the ECW World Championship, to me being identified with Shane Douglas. Even though I'm not a big Shane Douglas fan, I think that Shane Douglas took a mediocre wrestling career and said fuck a lot on ECW and made it into an iconic career.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, though, with Shane. I mean, but that's the way I feel about Shane. That's the way I feel about Shane with the ECW World Championship. I think that it really, honest to God, meant a lot to him. And that's what came through. And that's why when we talk about these titles, like, it's what comes through those guys emotionally and you know, for real. And they really epitomize the title. And so I see what you're saying with Shane, too.
Yeah.
And that being said, unless you have something else, we're going to wrap up this edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, after a great edition of the show, I want to say goodbye, good night, and thank you for joining us on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Let me cue up our exit music. Aaron,
But
fill the room with words while I cue up our entrance music.
words.
We've been drinking during this show, folks. Drinking a bit. Maybe a little. But it helps us identify with our listeners who might or might not be drinkers.
Say that.
But that's one of the beauties of this show is it's our show, so we can do whatever we want. Get smashed while we're recording this show. And
That's hot.
possibly listen to Al Jolson as well. Ha! Good Tootsie. Goodbye. Like Toots Mond would say, Tootsie. Goodbye. On the We Can't Wrestle podcast, Aaron, say goodbye to your listeners.
Bye.
If you don't get a letter, you know Aaron's in jail. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on the We Can't Wrestle podcast, where we're going to watch, apparently, ECW Anarchy Rules 1999. Which means I assume I'll be watching my favorite wrestler ever, Shane Douglas. He said sarcastically. Goodbye, listeners, and thank you for joining us on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. We'll see you next time. Get hot!
That's hot.
Get hot.
Pull pie.